Okay, so last few weeks has been, a flood of like major consequential like business, economic, macro, and like policy headlines coming out of China. And it's really been picking up pace. However, going forward for the next few weeks, certainly the next two, in particular, starting as of today, the significance will be on the complete lack of business and market related headlines out of China. And that's because we are entering Chinese New Year. So mainland shares are closed for trading this whole week, including today, Monday, and reopens next Monday. Hong Kong will be closed from Tuesday and reopens on Friday, during which corporates don't have to necessarily issue statements on, say, like missing coupon payment deadlines or restructuring progress unless they want to. Not that the likes of Evergrande have been particularly communicative on such matters anyway. But even entities like the, PBOC or central regulators, they don't have to make any comments either. Like, of course they can, but if they don't, they can always just rely on the holidays to explain silence. And then when business starts to open back up next Monday, then the Beijing Winter Olympics will have already been underway. They are starting this Friday, February 4th, and thereby kind of almost extending that silence period of media focus, which will be squarely on the Olympics. I want to point out the Foreign Correspondents Club of China, or FCC, their latest working conditions report that was just published, in which, quote, the Foreign Press Corps is facing unprecedented hurdles covering China because of the state's efforts to block and discredit independent reporting. 99% of journalists in this year's survey said reporting conditions did not meet what they considered to be international standards. Okay, so I recently gave my view on China's COVID-0 policy in the daily briefing a few weeks ago. My very controversial sort of idea that I'm just going to throw out there, and I don't really care what the feedback or blowback is going to be, is zero COVID, China's policy. What I will say about that is I think that China is very aware that it's economically damaging. I also think that they're very aware that it doesn't work. And so why are they doing this? First of all, because they've done it for so long, they're stuck with it. They can't not do it anymore. But also, it's a very convenient way to basically not have uprisings and protests and social unrest and gatherings. Because if there is some sort of a corporate-induced populist anger against the Evergrandes or the property sector as a whole,
you're just calling it Evergrande now. You're always just going to have that L on the front.
They deserve it. If the government cracks down on those protests, those gatherings, then they are going to be seen as sticking up for the corporate elite. And that can't happen because the pitchforks will turn on them. So this is a way for them to disperse the crowd, right? And I mean, if you just ask Hong Kong protesters in 2019, I mean, they wouldn't quit for anything except this pandemic. And I think Beijing noticed. So I think COVID-0 is providing this very nice side beneficiary of allowing them to exert their lockdown or their suppressing of mass gatherings in the name of COVID and all that. And again, from the FCC report, quote, strict COVID-19 measures curb infections, but they're also used to unnecessarily delay visas, shut down reporting, and decline interviews. 52% had to leave a place or were denied access when presented no health or safety risk, per to China's own regulations. So that's another sort of benefit of having a COVID-0 policy. And we're now seeing a rapid rise in reported cases of COVID, triggering entire regional shutdowns. We're also seeing reported Olympic cases spike since mid-January, most of which are not from the athlete community, but rather from the foreign press and the delegations community. China is openly determined to have a protest-free, smooth-running Olympics, and therefore that's likely what we will be getting in terms of news flow. But in the background, events and developments will be occurring, even if they aren't transmitted by media headlines. Now, obviously we don't know what we don't know, but this is just a very short list of things that are taking place amongst many, many others. So first of all, there's going to be further supply chain complications. The world's factories and ports are going to be completely shut down. Now, also note that authorities have been urging some factories to stay open and encouraging workers to keep working, and they're paying subsidies of additional pay in some cases. Also, property sales. Chinese New Year is a seasonal period of strong property sales. People go home, they purchase new property. This will need to be closely watched as new home sales data once again seeing month-over-month declines at a time when developers and their creditors are in dire need of cash flows and authorities have eased conditions to buy. So a continued decline, in demand during the seasonally strong period could be devastatingly bad. And then, of course, the Olympics themselves, namely the opening ceremony in which Russian President Vladimir Putin will be there in person and meeting with Xi Jinping in person. This is of obvious significance with regards to the Ukrainian geopolitical crisis, and this will also be a very selective, sort of press coverage. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. Again, we don't know what we don't know. Over this period, we might even see a relief rally in risk assets due to a lack of kind of negative news headlines. But just be very careful if any such thing should happen. Just because things are quiet from headlines doesn't mean inactivity. Silence is not quiet, and vice versa. And that's it. All right, thanks.